surrender to the will of God. Abandon all thoughts of my own. I surrender to the will of God, in whom all things are known. I am led, I am guided, I am loved, I am blessed. I am led, I am guided, I am loved, I am blessed. I surrender to the will of God. Abandon all thoughts of my own. I surrender to the will of God, in whom all things are known. I am led, I am guided, I am loved, I am blessed. I am led, I am guided, I am loved, I am blessed. I am loved, I am blessed.
So we continue to breathe in the energy of that divine surrender, surrendering any aspect of consciousness or belief that are not in alignment with our highest and best. See, when we surrender and let go of that which is not true about us, we create the space to step deeper, further, higher into that which is true about us. So we breathe, and I go to a passage in the book by Eric Butterworth, Discover the Power Within You, where he says at the beginning of chapter 4, quoting Charles Fillmore, the starting point in spiritual realization is a right understanding of that one designated as the Almighty. Eric Butterworth goes on to say, Jesus had a unique concept of God. To him, God was not an object of worship, but a presence dwelling in us, a force surrounding us, and a principle by which we live. It is not too much to say that anyone who catches this idea, Jesus's concept, will find themselves caught up in a new consciousness that will change their whole life. They will never be the same again. So we breathe and we surrender anything that blocks us, that hinders us from this concept that Jesus had of the divine. We give rise to the divine idea, the Christ consciousness, the truth of our being. We allow it to be. We allow it to express. We allow it to show up. We allow it in such a way that it is seen in the way that we smile to another, in the way that we greet a neighbor with a hello, how are you? Good to see you. What are you doing for St. Patrick's Day? We allow it to be in the gentle way in which we navigate our lives, the way we walk gently on the earth, the way we compassionately nurture and support community. We allow it to express in the way that we forgive. We allow it to express in, through, and as us. Because in truth, that which is God is all there is. Which means it must be right where we are, breathing itself as us. So as we enter into the silence, we enter in to that space, that holy of holies, where the truth of our being is self-evident. And we breathe. Breathing. Knowing that as we come back to the room, come back to the presence of one another in this thing we call Sunday service, we come back with this new realization, this new concept of what God is, this presence that surrounds us, that is in us, and that is showing up in, through, and as us. It always has. It is right now, and it forever will. We breathe. And we recognize that which is true by saying, and so it is. Amen.
There is more than enough in a universe that you created. There is more than enough on a planet of sacred design. There is more than enough for humanity made in your image. Why would I worry? Why would I doubt? Why would I ever think I'd go without? Why would I worry? Why would I doubt? Why would I ever think I'd go without? Your innocent love made me, made everything I see, and all that will ever be is your infinite love. Let my soul know the truth, whatever I choose to do. Your infinite love will prove more than enough. There is more than enough in a universe that you created. There is more than enough on a planet of sacred design. There is more than enough for humanity in your image. Why would I worry? Why would I doubt? Why would I ever think I'd go without? Why should I worry? Oh, why would I doubt? Why would I ever think I'd go without? Your infinite love made me, made everything I see, and all that will ever be is your infinite love. Let my soul know the truth, whatever I choose to do. Your infinite love will prove more than enough. Your infinite love made me, made everything I see, and all that will ever be is your infinite love. Let the world know the truth, whatever we choose to do. Your infinite love will prove more than enough, more than enough, more than enough.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much for that, David. Thank you, Unity of Davis. It is an honor and a pleasure to be with you all. Thank you, Reverend Carlini, and thank you, Mary Lindsay, for reaching out to me last year to get me on the calendar. Yay, team. Look at how Spirit works to bring stuff together. Come on now. So it is an honor and a pleasure to be with you all today. And what are we talking about? Stories. But not just stories. Like, we're not going to talk about, so did you go see the new movie Dune? Did you go see Willy Wonka? We're not talking about stories in terms of that. Although we could, because metaphysically we could pull all that stuff in. But specifically, we are talking about the stories that we tell ourselves and others about ourselves and others. Because, see, all of these stories shape our lives. Now, we may not realize that. We may not want to realize that. But wherever there are people, no matter where on the planet you go, wherever there are people, there are stories. And in order for us to come together, especially as new thought, if we want to create a world that works for all, then we are invited deeply to explore the stories. In other words, We are deeply invited to recognize the power of our word to create. Because, see, that's what stories are. That's what stories do. There's a passage in a Shakespeare play, As You Like It, where Jacques says the words, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women and people, he doesn't say people, but to be gender inclusive, and all the people merely players. See, they have their exits and entrances, and one person in their time has many parts. Their act being 7 ages. Now, he goes on in this to describe it in various ways that aren't necessarily a pleasant way of thinking about this, but nonetheless, when we go with this idea that all the world is a stage and we are the actors acting out an individual story within the boundaries, within the confines of a collective story or series of stories, then we're invited to backtrack and say, well, what is this story individually? See, when I tell the story and I say, growing up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I was abused, if it's a name of a kind of abuse that you can say it, then more than likely I experienced it. That is a story. Now, the moment I tell you that, it does something in your consciousness as you connect with me through that. And if you have a similar story, there is now a kind of coherence. But what do we do with the story? Well, in order to shift the story, it's important to pause, rewind. What is a story? If I were to, be the person on the street with the microphone and say, hello, Donna, I would like to ask you a question. If you answer this question, I will give you $1,000. What is the definition of a story? How would any of us answer that? We may quickly or easily say, well, a story is a series of words put together to become sentences, that become paragraphs, that become whatever this is, that guide us through some kind of a journey with any number of characters. Yes, that is accurate. And yet, a story can be as simple as one sentence, one single sentence. They delivered the mannequins in bubble wrap, and from the main room, I began to hear. I just saw my reflection blink. One sentence, and it tells a story. So when someone says, Christina asked me, hey, Reverend Ray, how are you today? One sentence can tell a story. Well, Christina, can't complain. Okay, I heard the story, but is the story actually answering? I said, how are you? How are you feeling? How are you? What you told me is, I can't complain. Now, why do we tell stories in this way that aren't really expressing the depth of who and what we are? We do that for a variety of reasons. Protection. We're not really sure what exactly this or what exactly that. And so our invitation is to gain a level of clarity. Because I'm sure you've heard the song, our thoughts are prayers and we are always praying. You said, what now? Cam, what did he say? He said, our thoughts are prayers and we are always praying. Then what are we praying about? What are we praying for? What are we praying with? What are we praying in these thoughts? If there's not a level of clarity. So let's rewind and go back because I want to make sure Donna gets that $1,000. So the official definition of story is some kind of account of imaginary or real people and events that are told for some kind of entertainment or information. It's some kind of account of past events in someone's life or in the evolution ding, 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 or the evolution of something. So if we want to create a world that works for all, then we have to be about the business of telling the story of evolution, the story of people awakening to the truth of their being, the Christ consciousness of their being, the 21st century New Thought Good Samaritan way of being in the world. We have to tell that story. Now, there are three key reasons why we're even, investing in this. Number one, if we want to create a world that works for all, as I said, then we have to change both the individual stories that we are telling and the collective stories we are telling. So how many times has a wife said something about their husband in a way, wink, wink, in a way that it's furthering the narrative or the story that keeps him operating in the way, for example, when I ask you to take out the garbage, you never listen to me. You never listen to me. Versus, let's rewind. Yes. Hello, honey. Do you mind doing me a favor? Yes, dear. I love you so much I will do anything for you. Please take out the trash. See, that's telling a story in a different way because it's connecting in a different way. How many times has the husband done the same thing? How many times has the minister done the same thing? How many times has the parent done the same? How many times has the student, the child, the neighbor? How many times have we continued to tell the story of old? You've heard of this thing, I think it's called diary. It's like a little book that people write in. Do we go back to page 1 and keep reading it as if page 1 is still the truth and accurate for page 40? Or are we now on page 40 turning the page to page 41? And as the pages progress, we have changed. But if we come back and keep revisiting page 1 and we rewrite on page 2 what we wrote on page 1, and we rewrite on page 5 what we wrote on page 1, 2, 3, 4, and we rewrite on page 10 what we wrote on 1 through 9, why are you writing in the journal, babe? My beloved, why are you still writing? There's no reason. You could just record. Yes, entry for today, Captain's Log, stardate 7/29. Today I fell and I recognize that I am ever so clumsy. And then you get up next morning and you click play. Stardate, Captain's Log. Today I fell and I'm so clumsy. Today I fell and I am so clumsy. Today I fell and I'm... How many days are we going to continue to affirm? Because see, affirmations can affirm that which is life affirming, that which is the activity of love, joy, light, or it can be non-life affirming, and yet it is still an affirmation. I can affirm, I can speak a word that says, I know that I'm stupid. I know that I'm ugly. I know that that's an affirmation. We don't often term it that, but that's what it is. So our invitation is, if there's something specific that we want, then how do we speak that into creation? We need not deny the pages that came before. We don't have to deny what was written on the journal in the diary for the past year. But when I turn the page and it is a blank page, it's a new opportunity to create, to go deeper, to go further, to go where no one has gone before, to shift my consciousness. See, our culture and our society were created based upon the stories that we have told and that we continue to tell. The stories that once were told about women. Well, if she has a birthmark on her shoulder, she must be a witch. Wait, time out. Why are you telling that story? Whole cultures and atrocities were created as a result of the stories that people like Hitler told. And people read those stories and retold those stories to others, who told them to others, who told them to others. And a culture and a society was created, and a war came out of those stories. If we want to create a culture and a society where there is no war, then we have to change the stories that we tell individually and collectively. Any stories that talk about some form of ideologies where there's a superior and an inferior, whether it's race, ethnicity, gender, religion, doesn't matter what it is. Anytime we reference this idea of superiority and inferiority, even if it is something as quote unquote mundane as a football game. If the moment I step into, I'm having a conversation with David and, his favorite football team is trash. They couldn't win a football game if you gave the football to them and walked them all the way they still wouldn't. Okay. Now, if David and I have a rapport where we can joke, that's a different matter. But there are some who get into the consciousness of competition that when they go into trash talking, they're now creating division. They're now creating separation in the story that they're telling about football, in the story that we tell about our relationships, in the stories that we tell about whatever it is that we are talking about. If words have power, and we say they do, if thoughts are things, and we say they are, then our invitation is to become better stewards of our words and our thoughts. If we want something different, it was Einstein, I believe, who said, and this is Reverend Ray's remix, you keep squeezing that orange thinking apple juice is going to come out of it? I need to make a phone call. 911. Hello, Reverend Ray thinks, I'm not sure what that is, but I need y'all to, observe him for 48 hours. Right? He said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, but thinking you're going to get different results. How many of us tell the same stories? Oh, woe is me. I am so horrible. I can't do nothing right. I might as well stop. I'm going to try to pray today, but my stuff won't go away. 'Cause I'm miserable and I hate my life. Join in with me, David. I hate my life. Right? Wait. Pause. But if we don't do that, because we're New Thought folks, so we don't, but we know people who do. I can guarantee you that everyone on this call, everyone gathering in service today, knows someone that is singing that old song from back in the day from Hee Haw. Gloom, despair, and agony on me. Deep, dark depression, excessive misery. If it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Gloom, pause. If we want something different, health and well-being, we want something different, peace on earth, goodwill to all. We want something different, love and compassion. We want something different, equity and justice. We want something different. We have to tell a different story. Reason number 2, there is a story that each of us tells, but it's not just in the words that we speak or what we might write in a text or an email or whatnot. It's also in the way that we live our lives. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then the moment Dixie walks up to say hello to me and I do this, what was just communicated? I said no words. There was no text, but there was communication. How many of us are aware of when we are moving through our lives, there's a story that we are telling? and once again. If we want to change the outcome, then we have to change the mental equivalent. The mental equivalent being our thoughts, our beliefs, the paradigms, our consciousness, the way in which we communicate verbally and non-verbally, our emotions and our feelings and our actions. All of that makes up our mental equivalent. If there was a, Grace and Kent, they have a reality TV show, the Grace and Kent Show, every Friday evening. Join in and we observe what would their reality TV show us about them. Other than the fact that they are beautiful, enlightened, and loving beings of light. What would any of our reality TV shows afford an audience the opportunity to enter into? Because if we are going to recognize and say that we are energetic beings, I'm sure you've heard of this idea, when the FBI or when the police or detectives are, investigating something, they look for fingerprints, right? Because you touch stuff and you leave a fingerprint that someone can go and find. Well, if we're energetic beings, then we leave energetic fingerprints as well. When I go into a grocery store and I pick up a box of cereal and I change my mind and put it back, I touched the box. If Oscar the Grouch is what I'm channeling, then I put Oscar the Grouch vibes into the box. Have you ever eaten a meal when someone loves what they're doing and they love who they're cooking for versus when they're cooking angrily? They're mad and they're fussing and cussing. You follow the exact same recipe. The food tastes different. And I'm sure some may be saying, but time out. Have you ever heard of Dr. Emoto, who talked about how you speak words to water and it changes the water crystal? Well, if you can change love, think love, and it changes the water crystals, then you can also think angry, hate, bitterness, unforgiven, and it's going to change the taste of the lasagna. It's going to change the very atmosphere in a room when you go into a room. So let's breathe and pause for a second, because I want to go back to the book Discover the Power Within You by Eric Butterworth, where he shares that there's a quote where he says, "Know this, O man," once again, gender specific, but know this, O man, sole root of sin in thee is not to know thine own divinity. In other words, when we don't know our divine, we are missing the mark. When we don't live from this awareness of our divinity, we're missing the mark. How many of us tell the story about God in a way where God is anthropomorphized versus personalized? Butterworth goes on to say, self-reverence, breathe, self-reverence, self-knowledge, self-control. These three alone lead to sovereign power. Self-reverence. Do you revere yourself? Do you honor yourself? Do you take care of yourself because you love yourself? Do you have the knowledge of who and what you are? Do you steward the way that you show up in your relationships with love and generosity? Because that's our invitation. Do you tell a story of being a divine incarnation or being a lowly, wretched, broken, clumsy, overweight, underweight, unhealthy, whatever it is? Or are we ready to step into a space that says, okay, I can be someone who experienced abuse, and I can still live, move, and have my being as someone who recognizes that I am divine. I am the infinite. I am that which is spirit, incarnating itself as me. I have that opportunity and that choice. So we breathe. Because in order to change the story, we have to be willing to be something else. We have to be willing to be something else. Say that one more time. Notice I didn't say we have to do something else. First, it starts with being. We have to be something else. Because see, what we're being determines the doing. If the only reason, and I'm gonna speak on behalf of David, the only reason David can create such amazing music is because there is that aspect of him that is being music. That I can guarantee you, and I just met David, but I can guarantee you that there are many days where David is not sitting in front of a piano or microphone, and there is a tune, not just in his mind, but there is a tune that is flowing through his body that he checks into every now and then and says, whoa, I got to play that on Sunday, or, oh, I love that. It resonates in his being, which is how he is able to express it. So our third aspect of why we are engaging in this conversation is because we are at a crucial turning point in the evolution of the planet. Who are we being? Are we being mature spiritual beings who steward the divine with our word, with our lives, as 21st century New Thought Good Samaritans who are here to serve and be a beneficial presence in the world? Keep in mind that Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Are we being the embodiment of justice? Are we being the embodiment of Christ consciousness? Or are we still telling the story of, oh no, see, Jesus was great. Oh, Jesus. Oh, he was enlightened. He was amazing. He was powerful, but not me. Why? Well, why not you? Even reading his words, he said, time out. I did these things, and so can you, and even greater. But in order to do so, we have to tell that story. Do you tell the story of your own greatness? Do you tell the story of how much you deserve love? Do you tell the story of how empowered you are? Do you tell the story? If you remember that sentence I gave at the beginning, I looked in the mirror and my reflection winked at me. Is your reflection, the truth of your being, winking at you because it knows how great thou art? Are we willing to tell that story? Because that's the story that changes not only our individual lives, but it's that story that changes it for people like Johnny Appleseed planting seeds to grow into trees that he would never pick apples from. There are people that we can influence who are on the planet now, and 50 years, 150 years from now, look back and read history books and say, Nana, is it true that back in 2024, there was a time when people in Unity and Centers for Spiritual Living got together of one mind and one consciousness in the divine, and they knew and told a different story that made war extinct? Yes, because that's how powerful we are, that all people are fed and clothed and loved and cared for. That's the story I invite us to tell. Blessings, namaste, much love.